We've all experienced that moment. You're there, physically present, but you feel transparent. You speak, but it's as if you're speaking underwater. Your words come out, but no one hears the sound. People's eyes slide over you without ever stopping, as if you were nothing more than an obstacle in their path. So out of habit, you disappear. You shrink your existence to the absolute minimum until you become just another detail of the decor that everyone ignores. And then a chilling certainty sets in. You aren't a guest, you're a ghost. If you vanished at this very moment, no one would come looking for you. Absolutely no one. This isn't loneliness, it's much worse. It's the erasure of your very existence in the eyes of the world. For most people, it's just a failed evening they'll forget by tomorrow. But for you, it might be the exact reflection of the first 10, 15, or 20 years of your life. What if I told you that this feeling of having no place isn't a life sentence? What if that void you feel in the middle of a crowd is actually the footprint of an invisible wound? A wound that dictates your choices, your relationships, and your fears since childhood? Listen closely, because what you mistake for a personality trait is actually a survival mechanism, and it's time to understand why you learned to disappear. The language of silence. We often talk about the trauma caused by shouting, violence, and what was done to us. But we forget the quietest wound of all, the one caused by what never happened. Whether it was indifference or emotional neglect, it is the unspeakable truth of those who grew up being invisible. If you often feel like you have to apologize for existing, or that your success is just a mistake that's about to be discovered, this is for you. Because silence is a language that the brain learns by heart. When we see a well-behaved child on a playground, one who asks for nothing and never cries, we often say, "What an easy kid." But behind that calm, a profound psychological drama may be unfolding. Specialists call this a pattern of internalized neglect. It's simple. After tugging on the sleeve of a distracted, tired, or absent parent enough times, the child eventually realizes their voice has no echo. So they stop crying out. They convince themselves that their needs, their love, and their sadness are burdens to others. That is where the trap closes. We assume children are resilient, that they adapt. It's true, but adapting isn't the same as healing. To survive indifference is to learn how to erase yourself. Picture this scene. It happens thousands of times a day. A kid comes home from school with a drawing. They put their whole heart into it. The colors bleed over the lines a bit, but they're proud. They just want to look. But the parent is on the phone, or dealing with a crisis, or just drained from their day. That's nice. Put it over there. The drawing ends up on the corner of a table, then in the trash without ever truly being seen. If it happens once, that's life. If it happens every day, the child doesn't learn that the parent is busy. They learn that what they create and what they feel has no value. And that child grows up. They become the adult who, when they achieve something brilliant at work, doesn't celebrate. They expect it to go unnoticed because invisibility has become their natural state. They enter a relationship and constantly ask themselves, "Am I too much?" They become an expert at reading others, a sort of human radar, because their survival depended on their ability to anticipate the moods of those who ignored them. The biology of the void. From a purely biological standpoint, it is both fascinating and terrifying. The need to be seen isn't a vanity project, it's a matter of survival. When a child seeks connection and receives only a void, their brain interprets it as a death threat. Cortisol, the stress hormone, floods their system. Over time, their nervous system rewires itself and becomes hypervigilant. That's why you might find yourself analyzing every micro-expression on someone's face. You know they're annoyed before they even know it themselves. You aren't just sensitive. You are a survivor who learned to scan your environment to know if you have the right to speak or if you should disappear. And that's where we see the mask we all wear to some extent as adults. There is the perfectionist, the one who thinks that if they are absolutely flawless, if they become the best, they will finally be noticed. But it's a race with no finish line because no medal can fill the void of a missing look from when they were 5. There is the radically independent, the one who says, "I don't need anyone." It's a protective lie. If I expect nothing, the silence can't hurt me anymore. And there is the mediator, the one who erases themselves entirely so that others are happy, hoping that in return, they'll be granted a small seat at the table. The saddest part is that these adults are often the most empathetic and gentle people you will ever meet. Why? Because they know the price of invisibility. They never want anyone else to feel that void. But behind that generosity lies total exhaustion. By constantly carrying everyone else's emotions, they end up forgetting their own. Breaking the cycle. People often ask me, but my parents weren't mean. They worked hard. Do I really have the right to be in pain? The answer is yes. Neglect doesn't need cruelty to do damage. It only needs absence. Understanding this is the first step in breaking the cycle, because these patterns are passed down. A parent who was ignored often struggles to give what they never received. So how do we get out of this? How do we become visible again? Healing doesn't look like a sudden explosion of self-confidence overnight. It's much quieter, a small internal revolution. You'll see, the day you dare to tell a friend, "I need you to listen to me," without apologizing for existing, that will be the day you celebrate a small victory. Just for you, looking in the mirror and saying, "What I did has value." It's about offering yourself the gaze you've waited decades for. Neuroplasticity proves to us that the brain can reprogram itself. We can learn to feel legitimate. If you recognize yourself in this portrait, if you were that child waiting in the shadows, I want to tell you one thing. Invisibility is not your identity. It was just your survival strategy. Today, you have the right to make noise. You have the right to take up space. You have the right to say that your emotions are heavy. Your story doesn't end with the silence of your childhood. It begins the moment you decide that from now on, you deserve to be seen. Not because you did something extraordinary, but simply because you're here. Remember, you were never truly invisible. People just forgot to look, and it's time for you to be the first person to correct that mistake. The first step, the setup. We often say that time heals all wounds. That's a lie. Time only buries the silence a little deeper beneath our adult habits. But today you did something the child you once were would never have dared. You stopped looking away. You finally put words to that void. For years, you probably believed your discretion was a manufacturing defect or proof that you weren't someone enough for people to stop for. But look closely at the journey you've made. That child who moved through indifference, who learned to decode the moods of others to avoid being a nuisance, who had to invent their own warmth, that child is incredibly strong. You are not a mistake. You are a survivor who was simply waiting to be recognized by the only person who now has the power to pull you out of the shadows. You. The world doesn't need you to disappear for it to keep turning. It needs the depth and empathy you forged in the dark. Healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's about giving the person you've been hiding for 20 years permission to finally step out. Before we go, I want to offer you an exercise. This isn't a lesson, it's a reality test for your brain. In the next 24 hours, I ask you to do one thing that feels forbidden. Take up space. If you have an idea in a meeting or at a cafe, say it, even if it's not perfect. If someone asks you what you want to eat, don't say whatever you want. Give your real choice. If you accomplish a task, even a tiny one, don't downplay it. Dare to do that too loud gesture, exist in the eyes of others without apologizing. Watch what happens. You will see that the world doesn't collapse when you speak. On the contrary, it adjusts. The invisible child has waited their turn long enough. Today, you are holding that child's hand, and you are deciding it's time to walk into the light. If this topic resonates with you, if you feel the beginning of a shift, stay with us. By subscribing, you're joining a community of people who, like you, have decided to stop letting their past dictate their worth. It's a simple way to remind yourself every week that your journey matters. And if you want to go further, I've prepared another video right here on the dark side of kindness. Why being too nice is destroying you. Thank you for sharing this moment of truth. I'll see you on the other side.